Live broadcasts don't come with warning labels. There are no retakes, no quiet edits, no second chances. And on the night Drake refused to speak to Cenat during a heated on-air exchange, millions watched a moment unfold that no publicist could spin away. Before we break down exactly what happened, subscribe to Prime Talk, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Because this wasn't just another celebrity live stream. This wasn't playful banter or viral marketing. This was a collision between two eras of influence, one built in recording studios and arenas, the other forged in bedrooms turned into digital stages. And when the tension surfaced live, it forced a question far bigger than either of them. Who really controls the narrative in modern entertainment? Drake is not new to public scrutiny. As one of the most commercially successful artists of the streaming era, his every move is dissected, from album rollouts to cryptic lyrics to perceived rivalries. He has mastered the art of image control. Interviews are calculated. Appearances are strategic. Silence is often part of the strategy. Cenat represents something different. Rising from Twitch streams to mainstream recognition, he built his brand on spontaneity. Raw reactions, loud laughter, unfiltered conversation. His platform thrives on unpredictability. When Kai goes live, the audience expects authenticity, not polish. When the two worlds intersected, it was destined to be unpredictable. The live stream had been highly anticipated. Social media buzzed for days beforehand. Clips from previous collaborations between rappers and streamers had already shown how chaotic and profitable these crossovers could be. Fans expected humor, maybe some music previews, maybe inside jokes. What they didn't expect was silence, or refusal. To understand why that silence mattered, you have to understand the stage. This wasn't a pre-recorded podcast. It wasn't a carefully edited late-night appearance. It was live. Viewers watched in real time. Comments flew by. Reactions were instant. The audience wasn't passive. They were participating, analyzing, clipping, reposting within seconds. When Drake appeared, the energy was high. Kai's persona is built around excitement. He amplifies the room. He makes guests feel like events. For most artists, that energy works in their favor. It generates viral moments. But Drake has always moved differently. He rarely puts himself in situations he can't manage. Even his surprise appearances are controlled chaos, curated environments where he dictates tone. So when conversation began shifting in a direction that felt less rehearsed and more probing, the atmosphere changed. At first, it was subtle. A pause that lasted half a beat too long. A glance away from the camera. A shift in posture. Kai continued pressing forward in his usual style, animated, leaning into the tension, reading the chat, amplifying questions viewers were typing in real time. He wasn't being hostile. He was being Kai. But the dynamic between an artist protective of his brand and a streamer energized by live unpredictability can become fragile very quickly. And that's exactly what happened. There are moments in live entertainment when you can feel the temperature change. It's not about shouting. It's not about explicit conflict. It's about absence. When Drake stopped engaging, when he refused to respond, the silence was louder than any argument. For viewers, the question became immediate. Was this strategic? Was it frustration? Was it miscommunication? Or was this the first time in a long time that Drake found himself in a room he didn't fully control? The stakes were bigger than one awkward exchange. Drake's public persona has long balanced confidence with calculated vulnerability. He addresses critics in lyrics, not in chaotic live discussions. He chooses platforms carefully. A refusal to speak on air wasn't just a reaction, it was a statement. And for Cenat, whose platform thrives on engagement, the refusal shifted the momentum of his own broadcast. A live show runs on flow. If one guest shuts down, the entire rhythm changes. The audience senses it immediately. Clips began circulating within minutes. Viewers debated body language. Analysts slowed down footage. Some defended Drake's right to disengage. Others argued that stepping into a live space means accepting unpredictability. But before we examine the exact moment where everything shifted, the question that escalated tension and the reaction that stunned viewers, we need to step back. Because this confrontation didn't appear out of nowhere. There were expectations. There were narratives building in the background. And there were pressures surrounding both men that made the atmosphere more volatile than it seemed on the surface. Drake wasn't just another guest. He was arriving at a time when conversations about authenticity, streaming power, and celebrity access were already evolving. Kai wasn't just another host. He represented a new gatekeeper, one whose audience loyalty rivals traditional media platforms. When those forces meet live, without a script, without delay, and without filters, even a simple question can feel loaded. And that's where this story truly begins, not with the silence, but with everything leading up to it. Because the moment Drake refused to speak wasn't random. It was building. And what happened next would change the tone of the entire broadcast. In the weeks leading up to that live stream, both Drake and cenat were moving at high speed, but in very different lanes. Drake was navigating the familiar terrain of a global artist under constant scrutiny. Every release, every lyric, every perceived slight had become material for online debate. His music didn't just drop, it triggered think pieces. His captions weren't just posts, they were decoded. For over a decade, he had learned to operate inside that microscope. He understood timing. He understood silence. And most importantly, he understood how quickly a narrative could shift. Cenat, on the other hand, was operating inside a new kind of spotlight. His growth on Twitch and streaming platforms had turned him into one of the most influential digital personalities in the country. Major artists weren't just visiting his stream for promotion. They were entering a cultural arena where real-time audience reaction determined success. In Kai's world, the chat wasn't background noise. It was part of the show. The viewers shaped the conversation as it happened. That difference in environment mattered more than it seemed. Traditional media operates on delay. Even live television has producers, time buffers, network controls. Live streaming removes most of those safeguards. The comments move faster than any PR team can respond. If tension surfaces, it's captured instantly, clipped instantly, and redistributed before anyone can contextualize it. When news first broke that Drake would appear on cenat's platform, anticipation exploded. Social media threads speculated about what might be discussed. Would Drake preview new music? Address recent rumors? Respond to critics? Or would it be light-hearted, games, laughter, viral soundbites? Publicly, there was no indication of conflict between the two. In fact, the collaboration seemed like a natural progression in modern celebrity culture. Established stars increasingly turned to streamers to reach younger audiences. Streamers gain credibility by hosting A-list guests. On paper, it was mutually beneficial. But timing is everything. At that point, Drake was in a period where his public image felt particularly sensitive. Conversations around industry competition, shifting musical trends, and generational changes were already circulating online. Critics questioned longevity. Fans defended legacy. The discourse was intense. Kai's audience, meanwhile, thrives on directness. They ask what mainstream interviews sometimes avoid. They want spontaneity, not rehearsed answers. And Kai often amplifies that energy by reading comments aloud, pushing conversations in real time. That combination, an artist accustomed to controlled messaging entering a space defined by unpredictability, created an invisible tension long before the stream even began. There's also the dynamic of authority. Drake, for years, has been one of the most dominant figures in hip-hop and pop culture. He commands arenas. He headlines festivals. In most rooms, he sets the tone. Cenat, though younger, commands a different kind of authority. His platform is his territory. When guests enter his stream, they step into his format, his pacing, his interaction style. That power balance is subtle but significant. In traditional interviews, the celebrity often holds leverage. In live stream culture, the host and the chat can shift momentum instantly. If the audience senses discomfort, they respond in real time. If something feels evasive, they call it out. That feedback loop intensifies everything. Leading up to the event, promotional clips heightened expectations. Short previews showed high energy. Laughter, excitement. Nothing suggested tension. But viewers who had followed both men closely noticed something else. Drake tends to reveal little in unscripted environments. He engages, but selectively. He jokes, but carefully. Kai, by contrast, leans into chaos. He pushes boundaries playfully. He often tests how far a conversation can go before it snaps back. The stage was set for two styles that don't always blend smoothly. As the live stream began, early moments felt aligned with expectations. Friendly greetings, casual conversation, music references. The chat exploded with excitement. Viewer counts climbed rapidly. Clips began circulating within minutes simply because of Drake's presence. But as the minutes passed, subtle shifts emerged. Kai began referencing online chatter, topics fans had been debating for weeks. It wasn't framed as confrontation. It was framed as engagement. "The chat wants to know" became a recurring phrase. That phrase carries weight in a live format. It transfers responsibility from host to audience. It implies transparency. It suggests authenticity. For some guests, that energy feels liberating. For others, it feels unpredictable. Drake's body language, according to viewers who later replayed the footage, appeared increasingly measured. He leaned back. He paused longer before responding. He offered shorter answers. Nothing explosive. Nothing dramatic. Just restraint. And restraint, in a high-energy live stream, can feel louder than reaction. The chat picked up on it almost immediately. Comments scrolled faster. Speculation intensified. Was he uncomfortable? Was he tired? Was there an off-camera issue? Or was he simply choosing not to engage in certain directions? Kai continued forward, balancing humor with curiosity. He attempted to keep momentum alive. But live momentum is fragile. It depends on rhythm. When response is slow, the rhythm falters. Then came the build-up to the moment that would later dominate headlines. The question itself wasn't shouted. It wasn't aggressive. It emerged from the very format that made Kai successful, direct engagement with what people were already discussing online. It touched on perception, on criticism, on narratives Drake had largely addressed only through music. In a recorded interview, such a question might have been trimmed. In a press junket, it might never have been asked. But in a live stream, avoidance is visible. And as anticipation grew in the chat, as viewers sensed something important approaching, the atmosphere thickened. Kai leaned in. The audience leaned in. Drake's posture shifted slightly again. There are moments in live media where everyone feels the edge of something. Not an explosion. Not yet. Just the possibility of one. That's where the pressure peaked. And when the question finally landed fully in the room, the reaction wasn't loud. It was silence. The question didn't arrive with aggression. It wasn't framed as an attack. It came wrapped in the same tone cenat had been using all night, energetic, curious, responsive to the flood of comments racing up the screen. He glanced at the chat, read a cluster of messages aloud, then looked directly at Drake. It was about perception. About the conversations that had been circulating online. About criticism that had grown louder in recent months. The kind of topic fans debate daily, but one Drake rarely addresses directly outside of music. There was a half-second pause after the question left Kai's mouth. In live broadcasting, half a second can feel long. Drake didn't immediately respond. He didn't laugh it off. He didn't pivot to a joke. He looked forward, expression steady, jaw set slightly tighter than before. His hands, which had been loosely animated during earlier conversation, became still. Kai waited. The chat accelerated. Messages stacked over one another. Answer it. Oh, this is getting serious. Viewer count continued climbing as clips began to be cut in real time. Kai attempted to soften the moment, adding context to the question. He framed it as something fans were genuinely curious about. He kept his tone light, almost playful, as if to say this was still entertainment, still safe. Drake remained quiet. The silence stretched. 5 seconds. 7 seconds. In a pre-recorded show, that space would be edited out. On live television or live streaming, there is no way to hide it. The silence becomes content. Drake shifted slightly in his seat. He exhaled through his nose. His eyes moved briefly off camera, then back. When he finally spoke, his voice was measured, calm, controlled. He didn't answer the question directly. Instead, he made a broader statement about focusing on his work, about letting music speak, about not engaging in every online narrative. His tone wasn't hostile. It wasn't explosive, but it was firm. Kai nodded, trying to keep the energy balanced. He attempted a follow-up, not sharper, but clearer. He restated part of the original question, this time without referencing the chat. It was a subtle shift, signaling that this wasn't just audience noise. It was part of the conversation. That's when the temperature changed. Drake leaned back further. His expression flattened. The casual rhythm that had defined the first half of the stream was gone. He looked at Kai, then toward the camera, then away again. "I'm not getting into that," he said. The words were simple. Not loud, not dramatic, but final. Kai blinked, momentarily caught between his instinct to press forward and his awareness of the tension. He let out a short laugh, the kind hosts used to diffuse discomfort. He tried to pivot to another topic, suggesting they move on. But the shift had already happened. Viewers could see it. The chat reflected it instantly. He's mad. This is awkward. Why won't he answer? Respect his boundaries. The audience split in real time. Kai attempted one more light remark, referencing how passionate fans can be. He smiled. He gestured toward the screen. But Drake didn't re-engage with the humor. His posture stayed closed. His responses became minimal. At one point, Kai circled back indirectly, not repeating the original question but alluding to the broader theme. Drake looked straight ahead and said nothing. 10 seconds passed. On live broadcast, 10 seconds is an eternity. Kai filled the silence with commentary, acknowledging the vibe shift without naming it. He moved into a new subject, music, upcoming projects, neutral ground. Drake responded briefly, but the dynamic had changed. The ease was gone. What made the moment powerful wasn't shouting or confrontation. It was refusal. Drake choosing not to participate in that line of discussion, and doing so publicly, without filter. There was no commercial break. No producer cutting to another camera. No edited transition. Millions watched the discomfort unfold organically. Body language experts later analyzed the clip frame by frame. Fans debated whether the question had crossed a line or whether Drake's reaction signaled deeper frustration. But in that live moment, none of that analysis existed yet. There was only the raw exchange. Kai, to his credit, didn't escalate. He didn't accuse. He didn't press aggressively. He adapted. He recalibrated the tone, focusing on safer territory. Yet the energy never fully recovered. Drake's answers remained shorter, the laughter less frequent, the connection thinner. And then, near the end of the segment, Kai made one final attempt to lighten the mood. He referenced how wild the chat had been all night. He smiled toward Drake, almost inviting him back into the rhythm. Drake gave a brief nod. A tight smile. Nothing more. For viewers, the takeaway wasn't just that a question went unanswered. It was that, in a space built on openness and spontaneity, one of the most powerful artists in the world had drawn a visible boundary. The moment spread instantly across social platforms. Clips isolated the silence. Headlines framed it as a clash. Some called it heated. Others called it professional restraint. But everyone agreed on one thing. Something had shifted live, in front of everyone. The stream eventually moved forward, technically continuing as planned. But the focal point had already crystallized. That exchange, the question, the pause, the refusal, became the defining memory of the broadcast. And as the live stream wrapped and viewers began replaying the footage, a new question emerged. What would happen next? If you want to understand how that single refusal echoed far beyond the stream itself, how it affected both Drake and cenat in the hours and days that followed, make sure you're subscribed to Prime Talk, because the aftermath tells an even bigger story. When the live stream finally ended, the tension that had built inside the broadcast didn't disappear. It followed the clip out into the internet almost immediately. Within minutes, fragments of the exchange began circulating across social platforms. Short segments showing the question. The pause. Drake leaning back in silence. Kai trying to steer the moment forward. In the world of livestream culture, those clips travel faster than the original broadcast ever could. What millions watched live quickly reached millions more who hadn't seen the stream at all. For viewers who were there in real time, the moment felt uncomfortable but contained. For those discovering it through viral clips, it looked even more dramatic. Edits isolated the silence. Screenshots froze Drake's expression. Captions framed the moment as a clash between a global superstar and a new generation host. Almost immediately, debate took over. Some viewers argued that Drake had every right to refuse a question he didn't want to answer. From that perspective, the moment was simply an artist maintaining control over his narrative. Drake has built a career carefully choosing what he addresses publicly. For supporters, his calm refusal was not anger, it was discipline. Others saw it differently. To them, entering a live, unscripted environment meant accepting unpredictability. cenat's platform is known for direct interaction with the audience. The chat drives the conversation. Fans felt the question reflected genuine curiosity, not hostility. In that view, the refusal looked less like control and more like discomfort. The split reaction illustrated something bigger than the moment itself. The growing cultural tension between traditional celebrity media and the new live stream ecosystem. For years, artists relied on controlled interviews, radio appearances, and carefully curated press cycles. Streamers changed that dynamic. When celebrities appear on live streams, they step into spaces where audiences expect authenticity and spontaneity. There are fewer barriers between public figure and viewer. That shift makes moments like this feel more significant than they might have years ago. Inside cenat's community, the reaction was immediate but measured. Kai himself didn't escalate the situation after the stream. He continued creating content, interacting with fans, and maintaining the energetic tone that built his platform in the first place. When he addressed the moment indirectly during later streams, he kept the tone respectful. He emphasized that live conversations can be unpredictable and that not every question will land the same way with every guest. That response helped cool what could have easily turned into a prolonged feud narrative. Drake's camp, meanwhile, did what it often does after unexpected viral moments: very little. There was no lengthy explanation, no direct public statement addressing the clip. Drake continued focusing on music releases, appearances, and his broader career. In many ways, the silence mirrored the moment itself, controlled, deliberate, and consistent with his long-standing communication style. But even without official statements, the cultural conversation kept moving. Media outlets began analyzing the clip as an example of the changing relationship between artists and digital personalities. Commentators pointed out that platforms like Twitch and YouTube live streaming now attract audiences rivaling traditional broadcast television. When artists enter those spaces, they enter a format where conversation can shift quickly and unpredictably. For cenat, the moment reinforced something many observers already believed. His platform had become powerful enough to host the biggest names in entertainment while still maintaining its raw, unfiltered style. The fact that the moment happened live, without edits, without corporate filters, was exactly what his audience expects. For Drake, the incident became another example of how carefully he manages public engagement. Throughout his career, he has often responded to criticism through music rather than interviews. That pattern didn't change here. The refusal to engage in that moment was consistent with how he has historically chosen to navigate public pressure. And that's why the moment continues to circulate months later. Not because it involved shouting or dramatic confrontation. In fact, the opposite is true. The most memorable part of the exchange was restraint. A question asked. A pause. A clear boundary. Those quiet moments often reveal more than louder conflicts. In modern entertainment, where every reaction can become viral content, silence itself can become a powerful statement. Drake's refusal to engage showed how established celebrities sometimes respond when confronted with the unpredictability of live internet culture. Kai's handling of the situation showed how new generation hosts balance curiosity, audience expectations, and respect for their guests. Two different media worlds collided for a few seconds, and millions witnessed the result. Moments like this remind us why live broadcasts still hold a unique power. Without scripts, without edits, without second chances, the smallest exchange can turn into a defining clip that travels across the entire internet. And sometimes, what people remember most isn't what was said. It's what wasn't. If you enjoy deep dives into the most unforgettable live interview moments, celebrity confrontations, and unfiltered broadcasts that change the conversation, make sure you subscribe to Prime Talk, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps us keep uncovering the real stories behind the moments everyone is talking about.